The United States is really going all out to compete with China. Trump's so-called Great and Beautiful Bill may seem like a farce of robbing the poor to enrich the rich on the surface, but in reality, it is a desperate gamble by the U.S. on its national destiny. This bill raises the federal debt ceiling by a whopping $5 trillion in one go. The goal is to completely suppress China's development before this money runs out. If it fails to do so, the United States could truly plunge into an abyss. Let's first look at the economic aspect. The bill cuts the corporate income tax rate to 21%, 4 percentage points lower than China's. Trump wants to use this trick to attract enterprises to move back to the U.S. and compete with China for manufacturing industries. However, he completely fails to understand where China's real advantages lie. China's strength does not come from low tax rates, but from the world's most complete industrial chain. From screws to chips, from raw materials to finished products, China can manufacture everything efficiently. This is the confidence behind being the world's factory. Even if the U.S. cuts its tax rate to zero, enterprises returning there will not find such a complete supporting industrial system, and their costs will only be higher. Therefore, this trick is doomed to fail. Now let's talk about military affairs. In this bill, the U.S. has allocated an additional $150 billion in military spending, $29 billion for shipbuilding, $25 billion for missile defense systems, $25 billion for ammunition procurement, $16 billion for military technologies like drones and unmanned naval vessels, $15 billion for nuclear weapons enhancement, and another $12 billion specifically earmarked for military operations in the Indo-Pacific region. It's obvious to anyone that this funding is clearly targeted at China. The U.S. Air Force recently announced its return to the Pacific, planning to deploy 300 warplanes and thousands of troops in the Indo-Pacific for large-scale military exercises, said to be the largest in its history. But honestly, will this extra funding really make a difference? By 2025, U.S. military spending was already approaching $900 billion, and it's expected to exceed $1 trillion next year. The U.S. has poured in so much money before, yet still failed to curb China's development. This shows the issue is not about money at all. Now, thinking that an additional $150 billion can reverse the situation is unrealistic. What's more, the U.S. military-industrial complex is not efficient. It spends a lot of money but delivers results slowly. What China can accomplish with 1 yuan may cost the U.S. $100. This gap cannot be bridged simply by pouring money into it. When it comes to energy policy, Trump's moves are even more bewildering. He directly canceled subsidies for wind power, solar energy, and electric vehicles, and even publicly claimed that wind power is useless, going so far as to spread the absurd lie that China has no wind power. This is nothing but barefaced nonsense. China already leads the world in the clean energy sector. It excels in solar power, wind power, electric vehicles, and lithium batteries. There is not a single area where it is not strong. The reason Trump makes such claims is that the U.S. is no match for China in these fields. So instead of competing, it simply retreats to its old ways and doubles down on oil and natural gas. Admittedly, the U.S. is indeed an energy powerhouse. It ranks 9th globally in oil reserves and 3rd in oil exports, while standing 4th in natural gas reserves and 1st in natural gas exports. The U.S. may think it can turn the tide with traditional energy, but the problem is that clean energy is the future. Even Saudi Arabia is investing heavily in solar energy, because wind, solar power combined with energy storage is truly a cheap and efficient energy solution. By pulling the U.S. out of the new energy competition, Trump is essentially giving up on the future voluntarily. In the end, this so-called Great and Beautiful Bill is not so much a U.S. self-rescue plan as a desperate struggle. Apart from sending the national debt soaring by $5 trillion, it will only lead to higher electricity bills, the outflow of manufacturing industries, backwardness in clean energy, and further military expansion. None of these can truly stop China's continued rise. The U.S. tried to lure industries with tax cuts, but failed. It tried to suppress China with military spending, but couldn't. Now it wants to stage a comeback with traditional energy, and it's chosen the wrong path entirely. Rather than curbing China, this bill is accelerating the U.S.'s own depletion. We can already foresee the outcome. China will not be held back. Instead, it will move forward more steadily and farther.